This is the Atari 8-bit podcast.
I offered club members to pay them for every bug they would find in my software. I paid them $3. There were a few. I didn't have to pay out much money at all, really.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Norm Draper was the creator of Draper Pascal, a version of the Pascal programming language for the Atari 8-bit computers. Draper Pascal started as a commercial program sold directly through advertisements in computer magazines. Then, later, Norm released it as shareware. This interview took place on July 3rd, 2018.
I guess when I got out of high school, then I was working in a factory in Pontiac, Michigan for a while, and then went to school in Chicago, DeVry Institute, to learn electronics. And after that, I graduated and had a job there with the company Western Electric, and worked there until Uncle Sam said, "We want you." So they called me in and drafted me and sent me to Vietnam, and told me to kill the enemy. But after a few months there, I realized, well, it'd be nice to do something better, safer. So I re-enlisted for computers, data processing. That's where my computer experience got started, was in Vietnam. And I didn't realize that, there's another benefit to that, too. They have air conditioning buildings where the computers are, and it's hot in Vietnam. So that was nice. But, I liked Vietnam. It was nice people, nice country, actually. And after that, finished up Vietnam and then went to Germany because I had time left. And while in Germany, met my wife, and we've been married 45 years. My wife is not German. She's Korean. So then came back to the United States. We got married over here and worked for a while, different places. And one of those is Shure Brothers in Evanston, Illinois. And then eventually went to Grand Rapids, Michigan, because my home is in Michigan. That's where I was born and grew up, froze in many years. And that's why I kind of like Texas now. I want to get away from the snow. But anyway, while in Grand Rapids, I worked at Steelcase, a furniture manufacturing company. And, while there, I met a friend, another guy named Arnie Lee. And he was another enthusiast. We were working on mainframe computers because that's all I knew at that point. And he said, hey, he has an interest in making this Pascal compiler. He was going to do it for the Commodore computer. And then I thought, I can do the same thing for the Atari. So then we worked together on this project to some degree. And then created the compiler kind of based on something he saw in a magazine, written in BASIC, and then went from there. But, the one I used was much improved from that version because I later moved to Texas, after being there in Michigan, because in Grand Rapids, that was my introduction to lake effect snow. Never seen it before.
I'm a California boy, so I don't really know what that means.
The wind in the wintertime, or whenever the winds or whatever blow moisture over the Great Lakes, in this case, Lake Michigan, and then Grand Rapids is on the western side of Michigan, so it got dumped on with snow, and we got 6 feet of snow, and I'd never seen that before, and that was just too much. One winter there in Grand Rapids was enough. So then, after we'd already started the project, didn't get a whole lot of work done on it, then I left. I headed south, so ended up here in Texas, and been here ever since. And It's nice and warm here, and I like it much better.
Nice. So your buddy had a Commodore, and you had an Atari.
That's right.
That's an unusual friendship. Mostly the Atari people, would stick with the Atari people. But
well, yeah, actually, I had Apple computer, and he had Commodore. So I started out, I think I was going to do something on the Apple, but I did not, the Apple II.
Mm-hmm.
So then later on, he marketed, he had a company set up kind of. So when we actually did get going and have something that people could buy, he marketed it for me. He would send me some royalty or something every once in a while based on that. And excuse me, after a while, like I said, I moved to Texas here, and then I'd work on it here. Well, actually, before that, if I can just back up just a little bit, while
Sure.
in Grand Rapids, I'd work on it in the evenings. I still had my full-time job working for Steelcase. And then after that, I'd work on my compiler or the runtime engine, which is in 6502 assembler. Work on that until about 10:30 at night, I think it was, because that's when Star Trek came on. This is the original Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So I'd stop my work and go watch one edition of Star Trek and then go to bed. And that was my routine day after day. So I saw all the Star Treks because it took a long time for this project. But
nice. So did you initially learn Pascal on mainframes, or did you just learn it from reading about it?
No, just reading about it and from books. I would buy Pascal books. I bought a few of them, just to learn about the language and go from there. And it was interesting. I liked it. And it was used a lot, I guess, in schools, because once I did get producing it here with the Atari version, many schools did buy it, including some in other countries. Like I think some in Israel or whatever bought some. Because it used to be that UPS would come to our house every day and pick up packages, and then they'd be sent somewhere. Back in those days, I mean, the way my business was, I was working full-time here, too, in Texas, and just had an answering machine set up, and then had the advertising in the Atari magazines, and if people wanted to order it, they'd just call and talk to the answering machine and leave their credit card number there, and then I would send it out. I mean, I don't think people would do that nowadays, like leave a credit card number on an answering machine.
Yeah.
But back then, it was trustworthy, and I didn't cheat on anybody, and everything was fine. And there was also in the Dallas area, there was an Atari club, so I joined that club. And once I had the Pascal about ready to go, I offered club members to pay them for every bug they would find in my software. I paid them $3, for each bug they found, and there were a few. I didn't have to pay out much money at all, really. And then, so that improved the product, mm-hmm. and went from there. And then it was marketed, like I said, later on from here. I just had to set up my own proprietary business.
So did your buddy come out with a version for the Commodore?
He did,
yeah.
But I don't think he marketed it very long. I mean, you could just search for him if you want. His name is Arnie Lee, and he has a software company called Abacus Software, and he changed his focus later on to be on books. He was, heavy into selling computer books, and then after that, it seemed to be changing to flight simulator software. He liked that for some reason. So those might be his focuses. Nowadays, I'm not sure what he's doing, but I'm quite sure he's still in business.
So it sounds like your product started off as a commercial product that you advertised in magazines, because I was only aware of it as a shareware thing. Maybe that came later?
Yes, it did. Yeah, initially it was $79.95. The shareware price was much lower. But the shareware price came out with the same software, but just less of a manual, and that was fine for people. They'd get a bargain. Plus, they'd if they already knew the product or wanted to read a book instead, then they could just go from there. So, and then if they wanted to buy the manual, that was good too.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you sold a lot to schools. So let's talk about how well it sold and who was buying this product? And was it a huge hit or moderate? How do you think it sold?
Yeah, I'd say fairly huge hit for me. It kept me busy, getting all these orders ready and sending them out. I'm not sure about the total number of orders. My best year was probably 1983, because I think back in that year, the profit from it was about $20,000, and that helped us to buy a new house, because that was like the down payment on a new house, because we were going to have another child born. So then it was time. So that worked out.
Cool. But you had a real job the whole time. This was a side hustle?
Yes.
Nice.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that you, looking at the manual, that you added, it wasn't like a standard off-the-shelf Pascal. You added features in order to use the special features of the Atari, like the graphics and sound and things.
Oh, that is correct. Yeah. I varied a long way from Arnie Lee's coding and what he had, and none of mine was in BASIC. And then I just used the 6502 assembler, and the compiler actually was written in itself at some point. So then if I wanted to make an improvement, add a feature, I'd have to code it into the compiler and compile it with the new features, and then use this evolution kind of just leapfrog, go from one to another to add features in the compiler. And I added many, and whatever I could find to make it good for the Atari people, because Atari had a good sound, good graphics, and things like that, good features.
And did you ever get any feedback from people other than your local user group?
Oh yes, yeah, feedback from many people, because there was a form or something, I think, registration form, I think people were asked to send back, at least for the shareware part. And yeah, there were a lot of good comments. A lot of people liked it, enjoyed it. Very few people found any bugs, any problems with it at all. I mean, if there's any question or whatever, then they would just ask me the question or problem, and then I would work it out and send them the answer. And one other interesting thing, I guess, at the time, or after I started, I believe there's a competition. There's a Cayenne Pascal that came out. So then I did something probably unusual. I bought it, and then I just, tried it out, looked through it, and then I sent suggestions to the author. I said, maybe you can make it better by doing this, to help him make his product better.
Oh, cool. Do you think they appreciated that, or they were just like...
I never heard from him. And by the way, I did not take any features from his Pascal and put in mine.
So did you program anything in Pascal other than itself? Did you use it for your own projects, I guess?
No, not really. I did not. Just learning, and then based on examples in books, and then each one of the examples that was in the manual, I tested it and made sure it worked, or I had other people from the Atari Club test it. So everything was tested and make sure it worked.
Sure. So it sounds like this was your only product. You came out with the one thing, it was a winner, and you ran with it.
That's correct. My one product, and then Atari stopped making the computers, which is sad. I bought the ST also, and I like that computer. I did not develop anything in it, to be marketed at all. But I like the ST also.
Let's see. So you said it started off in being programmed in assembly language, where you're using like the Atari assembler editor before you switched to programming it in Pascal itself?
That's right. Well, there are two parts to the product. One is the runtime engine that stayed in 6502 assembler, and it was the Atari assembler. I'm quite sure it was like a cartridge, I believe. And then, the compiler itself was eventually in itself. It started out, I guess, in BASIC or something, whatever I had to get it to the final form. And it compiles into P code, pseudocode, for Pascal, and then the runtime engine runs that. And I did not use any of the original pseudocode from this other project with the other guy, because it's all fixed length. I didn't want that, so I made mine variable length, so it'd be quicker and shorter, use less space and all that. So there were just like almost no similarities between what I had and what he had at the end.
Cool. All right, so what haven't I asked you about that time that I should have?
I'm not sure. Like I said, it started probably in about 1978 because that's when I moved to Grand Rapids, and then had that one winter there, and then came down here to Texas in 1980, which was the year of a heat wave. So here was 113, but that didn't bother me. So then I just had a lot of fun and learned a lot about, the Pascal and programming and so on in general. And I've learned many different programming languages since then. Did a lot of programming with Perl. Now I just do mainly stuff in Java. And I do work with another company, CA Technologies is the company, and work with more modern architecture. I started out there in mainframe, but not anymore.
So
I just
what do you do these days?
Oh, it's a senior consultant for the company where I just take some CA software and then help the customer get it implemented and put in place, configured, and then start using it.
Nice. So if you could send a message to the Atari computer users that still exist, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
It's a good product. I'm glad I stayed with Atari. I've never been disappointed with Atari. I wish they would have kept going with it so we can go even farther. And I remember when the ST first came out, they said that was going to take over the world and IBM would be gone and all that kind of stuff. I was thinking, oh, well, that'd be good, because it was a better computer, but that never happened. So that's kind of sad, but the Atari computer, if there's anybody still out there, and I guess there must be, then I'm with you, because, I still would support this product, and I do like it a lot.
Nice. Do you still have any of your Atari machines?
Oh, yes. Every New Year's Eve, get those things out and play Star Wars. No,
Star Raiders.
Star Raiders, that's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that plus, Pac-Man and other games, other Atari games, because we have a whole box of cartridges. So I get those out every New Year's Eve.
Nice. Why New Year's Eve? Just tradition?
It's just a family tradition.
Nice.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's great. So when I had asked you if you had the manual, the full manual for Draper Pascal, and you generously sent that to us, and we put that online. Do you have any other versions or any of the source code or anything that in languishing in boxes anywhere?
No, I'd have to look for the source code. I haven't seen it for a while, but I do have it somewhere. It would be the source code for the compiler, which is in itself, and then also the 6502 assembler for the runtime engine. I don't have that, so that's not available, but, that is the full manual. And the product is still available because if you do a search for it, it looks like I can find it on University of Michigan computers or something. I don't know. So
cool.
That's right.
That's great. Well, if you manage to find the source code and you want to share it with the Atari community, I know that we would appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I'll contact you.
Cool. Thanks. All right. I think I have what I need. Thank you so much, Norm.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
If you enjoy these interviews and would like to contribute, there are two ways you can help. You can help fund these interviews directly by contributing to my Patreon. A small monthly contribution will help offset the expenses of making these oral history interviews. Contribute at patreon.com/Savitz. Or make a tax-deductible contribution to the Internet Archive, a nonprofit digital library that has done incredible things to preserve computer history. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate. Thanks.